Highs and lows are one of my favorite things, which is definitely not in the adult mindfulness program. I mean, maybe there's some level of checking in with one another, but I make it a point very, very formally every week to start my groups with a check-in of highs and low for the week. And if you see somebody, individually and you see them more frequently, or if you're a parent and you want to do it at dinner time, you can make it, if we're doing a week to week, you can do it week to week. What's really nice about doing a check-in of a high and a low, and I'll explain what this is, we're actually going to do it. But what's really cool is you get a real quick pulse of the room and the community in the room. How are people doing? What is their week? What has their week been like? Are there similarities in the room? Are people going through similar things or very different things? When people share, you can tell. I mentioned this yesterday, and so there's going to be a little teeny bit of repetition from yesterday because it's my same program, but it's hopefully very, very different. But what's interesting, people start sharing is that sometimes what a high for me is a low for you, or sometimes some event can be both a high and a low. Or interestingly, what happens is since I do this every week, the skills learned over the week, I know what we've taught. So if someone says I'm having a problem with blank, and we've gone up through week 3, I know that I can ask and suggest, hey, did you try this and this from week this? Or do you remember the mindful quality of this? And you're like, what are all these things? We'll get to it. But did you try this? And sometimes they'll even say it themselves. I was having a real problem. One of my lows this week was this, but I tried the mindful quality of non-judging and it really worked. And so another wonderful piece about it is also gathering social support amongst the group. What I mean by that is that I'll say, has anyone else experienced a similar situation? Have you had any success with doing it differently, or had success with it? How did you get through it? So that offering social support for one another. And once also when they're sharing these highs and lows, there's this nice sharing of maybe we're not so very different, even though we all think we're different because maybe I'm in this club or this group, or you look different than I do. And it creates a bit of unity because it takes away what the stereotypes on the outside are and gets more to the core. Yeah.
Quick question. Are the highs and lows specifically related to the practice of mindfulness and or is it just open, wide, general?
So her question was really great. Is the practice of the highs and lows related to mindfulness and the practices that have been taught, or are they completely separate? Yes and yes. I believe, and I've said in the talks, that I believe it takes a certain person to teach with youth. It does. I mean, I don't go and work with certain populations that I know I don't feel comfortable with. And the same, I think we all have a niche of what we feel like we like to do. And if you feel really comfortable with teens and you feel really comfortable with what you're teaching and it's in your head, you can be quick to integrate the skills learned when you hear pieces. Just like a skilled therapist, which is mindfulness and isn't. This high and low thing is nothing. I never learned it from mindfulness training, but what I've learned is it makes it relevant to teens, because teens aren't adults, and teens like to talk about themselves, and teens are very I-focused, as you probably know, and so when we start hearing, but we can use this to our advantage, because when we start hearing their life experiences, the clubs they're involved in, the sports they're involved in, and if you remember those things and you take little notes, you can use those through all the teachings.